So this chapter, we finally found out why fishermen are afraid to go above water. It's not because of discrimination, it's because of the existence of Gyogyo, the strongest fisherman in Sorbet Kingdom. I mean, did you guys even see his Jolly Roger this chapter? It's a picture of a dead fish. Jokes aside, I've actually become a fan of Gyogyo and the characters of Sorbet Kingdom, and I'm really curious to see if we'll ever see them again in the future. Because when Bonnie showed up to Checkered Island, she said that she came alone and that she left her crew behind. Taking into consideration that Bonnie is only 12 years old at this point in the story, I highly doubt that Gyogyo and the others actually wanted to leave Bonnie alone. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do show up to some capacity here on Checkered Island or maybe in the future. If you've been watching my videos for a while now, then you must know that I am on an anti-supernova ship agenda right now. And I almost forgot that Bonnie's ship, the Jewelry Margarita, was also destroyed at the beginning of this arc. So yeah, that now makes 3 supernovas that have had their ships destroyed in the span of a couple of chapters. I wonder which supernova is next. So now, cutting right to the chapter, we start off at Mount Kolubo. Kuma is spying on Luffy in the middle of the woods, and Luffy is practicing his Gomu Gomu no battle axe. This may be a stretch of headcanon, but I like to believe that Kuma has a voice in the back of his head telling him, hey, this kid might be Sun God NIKA. While Kuma doesn't say it in this segment of the chapter, you gotta admit, Kuma knew Sun God NIKA as a rubbery person that fights with his imagination. And what does he see right here? Well, he sees a rubbery boy in the middle of the woods using a battle axe on a rock. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Kuma is slowly putting the pieces together that there's something with this kid. There's something a little bit odd about him, other than the fact that this is Dragon's son. So I'm not too sure how Kuma figured this out necessarily. Of course, it is suspicious that Dragon goes missing around Fuchsia Village and Goa Kingdom, but that wouldn't mean that the first kid that Kuma finds is necessarily Dragon's kid. But yeah, Kuma does bring up the question, and Dragon says, hey, Kuma, can you stop talking, please? You're gonna kill me if you keep on talking, brother, because a child is a parent's weakness. So I've been seeing some people get tripped up about this line and not exactly understanding what Dragon is trying to say here, but essentially, Dragon is saying that he would die for Luffy. Dragon would do anything for Luffy, so much so that if anybody were to figure out that they had a connection, Dragon would most certainly be dead. Dragon could be put in the same situation as Kuma, where his daughter's life is hanging on by a thread, and the only way to save them is to sacrifice yourself. And all I gotta say is that I absolutely love this character development from Dragon. We all had some inkling of knowledge that, hey, maybe Dragon likes Luffy, maybe Dragon cares about Luffy. But right here, Dragon is actually voicing it. And it is always good to see. After 26 years, we know that Luffy was being looked after this entire time. Another reason why I really like this is that it adds another layer to what Kuma said when he met Dragon when he was looking for a cure for Bonnie. Because when they met, Kuma said, I often found myself wondering, what would Dragon do in this situation? Now we know the reason why Kuma said that is because Dragon also cares deeply about his son. One big question I'm left with now is, how often does Dragon visit Luffy? How much does Dragon know about Luffy's childhood? Did he know about Ace? Did he know about Sabo? Did he know about the mountain bandits? I have no clue. And I think it would be safe to say that he doesn't, because that would be kind of a plot hole, right? If Dragon knew about Luffy growing up on Mount Kolubo and he knew about the mountain bandits and Ace and Sabo, then technically he should have been able to tell Sabo about his past a long time ago. Maybe Dragon thought it would be better if Sabo had amnesia, but I'm not exactly on board with that. So I'm just gonna take a guess and say that maybe Dragon didn't visit Luffy while he was growing up with Sabo and Ace. Another thing to back up this notion here that Dragon didn't visit around the Sabo and Ace portion of Luffy's life is the fact that Kuma in this chapter says that he saw Luffy in Fuchsia Village. And the reason why that's notable is because right when Luffy goes up to Mount Kolubo, he very rarely, if not never, goes back to Fuchsia Village. So yeah, maybe Dragon only watched after Luffy in his early childhood. A really cool connection we can make with Dragon visiting Fuchsia Village though is Dragon's potential connection to Shanks. Because we do know that Shanks, at least while Luffy was in Fuchsia Village, Shanks was there pretty dang often. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dragon and Shanks maybe met up at some point, and who knows, maybe Shanks is even the reason why Dragon has information on the celestial dragons, and even the holy knights. So now we cut back to Kuma, and Kuma is still spying on Luffy. Luffy's out there flexing off to the animals of the forest, and I think this scene here is pretty funny when you think about it, because while Luffy in this chapter has six-pack abs, you know, he's got some muscle to him, it's funny because when you go over to East Blue Saga Luffy, he's built like a twig. He doesn't have any of these muscles whatsoever. I've seen some people saying that this is a retcon, right? This is Luffy gaining muscles where he shouldn't have any. I don't really think that's the case, and I don't think it changes too much. I think this is more so Oda's art style changing throughout 26 years. Also, speaking of art style, have you guys seen the Egghead Island visual artwork? Because it looks fantastic. While Oda's art style has changed throughout 26 years, it looks like Toei's art style has changed as well. Now that we're no longer in Wano, we are getting more cartoony, which I think fits pretty well. It fits well with Gear 5th, and who knows, this could lead to more fluid looking fights overall. So Kuma gets another phone call from the world government, and we finally learn what Kuma's orders were from last chapter. And it turns out that it was nothing important whatsoever. I really thought that it would have something to do with Fuchsia Village or maybe the East Blue, but no, it turns out that Kuma is ordered to protect a merchant ship and defeat some low-life pirates. And the crazy part is that these pirates and these merchants are all actually fodder. They have no sails, no distinguishable ships. These are actual background characters that Kuma has to assist. And I kind of scratched my chin at this for a little bit, right? I was like, okay, they really pull them away for pretty much nothing. But when you think about it, that's kind of what warlords do, right? Crocodile was a warlord, and he was over here saving the people of Alabasta from no-name low-life pirates. Mihawk goes around hunting people like Don Krieg. I guess it just makes sense that warlords are just actually there to clean up the pirate fodder that the Marines can't exactly handle. I think one thing that's interesting to note though is one, Kuma's ship has bear ears, which I think is hilarious, and two, we actually don't see Kuma fighting the pirates in this chapter. We don't even see their ship being destroyed. Kuma simply asks them to turn themselves in, and in response, the pirates offer all of their valuables up. And we don't really know if Kuma takes their deal or not. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kuma just let them go, because Kuma is a pacifist at the end of the day. So yeah, I think it's quite notable that Oda just left that segment out. So while Kuma executes all of his warlord duties, he takes time every now and then to write letters to Bonnie, telling her about all the islands they can visit together, how beautiful the sun is, how beautiful Bonnie is, and how much he loves her. But it all falls on deaf ears, because Alpha destroys every single letter that Kuma writes to her. Last chapter, I'm not gonna lie, I was vouching for Alpha, right? You know, I see a good looking girl, I always vouch for him. I give them the benefit of the doubt. But this time around, I can't vouch for Alpha. This is pretty messed up. And here's the worst part. When you really think about it, since Kuma and Bonnie never get to meet, to our knowledge, after this, Kuma doesn't know that Bonnie never received those letters. All this time, while Kuma is going through his surgeries, in Kuma's final moments, he probably thought that, hey, at least I got to leave Bonnie all these letters telling her that I love her. Absolutely heartbreaking, man. It is so sad, because even in Kuma's final moments, when Vegapunk is like, hey, only 1 year's left, Kuma, until you're fully robotic, Kuma doesn't care. He brushes that to the side and he says, oh, well, I'm gonna spend this year writing letters telling Bonnie how much I appreciate her. If Kuma was writing letters about Sun God NIKA, his deal with the world government, Saint Saturn, God Valley, yeah, sure, rip up the letter, Alpha, throw it up, who cares? But Kuma wasn't doing that. Kuma just wanted to tell his daughter how much he loved her. And Alpha went out of her way to be evil. So going over to Kuma, Vegapunk, and Stussy for a little bit, I think it's really interesting how Stussy phrases Kuma's life. She says that he lives a checkered fate. And we know that line because it is iconic. That is what Sengoku says about those who possess the will of D. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Kuma had the D initial in his name. I mean, given how much he worships Sun God NIKA, given how good of a person he is, and how checkered of a life he's had, I think he deserves the D. And why stop there? Why stop at the dad? Why not give Bonnie the D as well? I think Kuma and Bonnie having the D, sharing the D, would be very impactful. It would show that the D isn't blood related. The D can simply be given to those who you love, just like how Ace and Luffy came together and gave Sabo the D as well, back in the King Cobra Reverie flashback. Also, now that we know that Stussy has met Kuma in the past, I wouldn't be surprised if Stussy is another character that gets emotionally invested if or when Kuma shows up here on present-day Egghead Island. The list of allies that Kuma has just grows chapter by chapter. So now, we cut back to Sorbet Kingdom, and we see that Gyogyo and the boys of Sorbet Kingdom are throwing Bonnie her 9th birthday party. And to celebrate, they gave her a giant piece of pizza. And I just gotta say, but it's pretty on brand, right? Bonnie, in an SBS segment, Otis said that Bonnie's favorite food just so happens to be pizza. Bonnie's pirate ship is a giant pizza, and her Jolly Roger is even a giant piece of pizza. If we wanted to put a sad spin on why she likes pizza, it could be because her eating pizza takes her back to the days when she was able to spend time with her father, Vegapunk, Kizaru, and even Sentomaru. So throughout this flashback and even just this arc, I've seen a lot of people hopping on the Bonnie for Nakama bandwagon. And honestly, I don't blame them, because Bonnie has been built up as a pretty good character through these past couple of chapters. And one connection I've been seeing people make is the fact that Bonnie, one, doesn't have a crew, so she's kind of free right now. And two, the fact that Bonnie is eating pizza. And I know that sounds a little bit weird, but back a couple chapters ago, we actually saw the Straw Hat crew chowing down on a giant pizza. And who would make a perfect fit in that cover page? Well, none other than Jewelry Bonnie. So now we go on a little bit more, and we see that in the past 6 months, Kuma has been aiding the Revolutionary Army. And I find it quite interesting as to how the narrator words this. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. It's not the narrator that says this. It is actually the Revolutionary Army. So they say, yeah, it's just like all those other times. The revolutionary forces were on the ropes. Then he swooped in to save us at the last minute. After that, he left without saying a word. And the reason why I want to put emphasis on that is because it more or less perfectly describes our situation here on Egghead Island. I mean, Luffy is down for the count, right? He's trying to regain his stamina. The Straw Hats are severely outnumbered. Saint Saturn is crushing Bonnie. Things aren't looking good. I wonder if in some way this is foreshadowing that Kuma will show up present day. So since it has been a year and 6 months since Bonnie has been cooped up in the church, she thinks it is time to leave. She's fully cured and she wants to go outside, but Alpha will not allow it. 6 months are left until Kuma fully dies, and she can't let Bonnie out of her grasp just yet. Because if Bonnie goes out there, she might run into her father. Woo, I know, really scary situation for the world government. So yes, Alpha says she can't go, and that is when Connie and the rest of the Sorbet Kingdom boys start realizing that something strange is afoot. Connie drops some lore saying, hey, I was at a bar one day, and one of the doctors let it slip that they actually work for the world government. Something's going on here. We gotta get Bonnie out of this church now that she can go outside. Bonnie asks Queen Connie, hey, can we really do this? Is it possible? And Connie says, don't worry, Gyogyo and the others aren't your regular fishermen. They're actually a strong group of hooligans. I'm sure pirates and even sea beasts will cower in fear at the sight of Gyogyo. When I read that, you will not believe how hyped I got. I don't know why. If you've been watching me for a while, then you know that whenever a silly character like Gyogyo, King Bulldog, King Bakori gets hyped up, for some reason I just eat it up. I love the jokes of it, and Queen Connie hyping up Gyogyo of all people, I think is phenomenal. So Connie and Bonnie execute their plan, and Bonnie sneaks out of the church disguised as Queen Connie. I love how one of the first things Bonnie takes note of when walking outside is the vibrant sun. I just think it's very fitting considering that she is one of the few people in the world who actually knows about Sun God NIKA and actually worships him to some extent. Another thing I really enjoyed is that this gag got utilized in such a way. I don't know why, but gags are one thing, right? We all sit there, we laugh at it. Oh, Connie, Bonnie, they're being mistaken, ha 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 ha. But seeing that joke be turned into an actual plot point and matter is one of the things I really enjoy most about One Piece. And also, since Bonnie was disguised as Queen Connie, this explains where Bonnie got the hat that we see in Sabaody. So Alpha realizes that she got duped by the Bonnie-Connie duo, and she starts chasing after Jewelry Bonnie. She uses Geppo. She starts walking on water, flying in the sky. And this is when Bonnie has a little flashback about a conversation she had with her dad about Sun God NIKA. Bonnie's like, hey, what does he look like? Kuma says that nobody exactly knows. But what Kuma does know is that NIKA has a rubbery body and he can fight as freely as he wills it. And that is when we see Bonnie whip out a distorted future, a future where she's more like Sun God NIKA. And in one giant hit, Alpha, the CP8 agent, is defeated. And what's even more insane is that Bonnie can pull this off. You know, catch me like 10, 20 chapters ago, I was like, hey, I think Bonnie can age Luffy up to his prime self. She can age Zoro up to his prime self. Sanji in his prime. Bonnie can do all of that. But now we know that Bonnie can do even more than that. She can warp your future. Of course, just reeling it back for a second, Bonnie has only used distorted future on herself, but really there's nothing stopping Bonnie from using this technique on Zoro, on Saturn, on anybody else. Since this is a paramecia, it can affect things outside of oneself. And who knows what could happen if she awakens her devil fruit as well. And not just that, but where do we draw the line? Do we draw the line at the mythical sun god NIKA? Or can we push it farther beyond that? Can she imagine a future where she's made of fire? Can she imagine a future where she's a true celestial dragon? I don't know. We don't really know yet. And I think this perfectly ties back to what Vegapunk said when he was telling us about devil fruits. Devil fruits are the manifestation of desire and dreams. Bonnie desired a future where she was more like sun god NIKA, so she could do just that. At this point, I am more or less convinced that whatever Bonnie wants, she can become. She's only limited to her own imagination. And here's the thing, Bonnie used distorted future without ever meeting Sun God NIKA, without ever knowing who Sun God NIKA truly is. So what's her limit now that she has met the real Sun God NIKA? Now that she has seen Luffy fight, what can she do knowing that his fighting style is so cartoony and zany? Can she potentially mimic those attacks as well? That's something we're gonna have to see, man, because I have no clue. And, you know, now that we know that Bonnie can do this, one thing I want to say is, where has this ability been throughout the entirety of the story? Because up until this point, she has only aged people up and down. She has never been known to be a straight boxer like this. After this chapter, I'm looking back at Bonnie's sword stab on Saturn, and I'm just like, yo, you could have hit this man with the sun god NIKA. One thing I really love in hindsight about this Bonnie and NIKA connection is that Bonnie has never met Luffy up until Egghead Island. You know, Bonnie and Luffy were both on Sabaody, and they just never crossed paths. And now I know why. It's because Bonnie would have realized that Luffy had something to do with Sun God NIKA, because he's rubbery and Sun God NIKA is rubbery. If Luffy whipped out Gear 3rd, she'd be like, wow, that's kind of like my distorted future. She would have been able to put the pieces together a little bit faster. And I don't know, I just really love that small touch. And just thinking back to all the previous interactions, this just makes so much sense. Another thing to take note of is that Bonnie doesn't know what Sun God NIKA look like, right? Kuma said that nobody knows. But at the start of this arc, one of the first things that Bonnie says is, hey, what's up with your wanted poster? Why was your hair white? So now I'm curious, now that Bonnie knows what he looks like, will Bonnie use a distorted future where she also gets the white hair? Who knows, man? The possibilities are absolutely endless. One last thing, but I don't know how many people noticed this, but when Bonnie was gearing up to attack Alpha, we see Bonnie in the exact same pose that Luffy was in when he was fighting Kaido. Oh yeah, I just thought about this, but one thing that could potentially nerf this ability could be that Bonnie can't manipulate objects like Luffy can, right? Luffy could pull up the ground and turn it rubber. Maybe Bonnie can't do that. Maybe Bonnie can only affect her own body and change the shape of her body and not outside objects. So yeah, that is it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really freaking appreciate it if you made it up to this point. Quick channel update, but if you're wondering where the comment reading is, I'm gonna make a video on that tomorrow, and it's gonna start being its own separate thing. And not just that, but I think I'm gonna start editing down my live stream reactions to the chapter and uploading that as well on this channel. So yeah, stay tuned for those. If you like them, I'll do more of them. If you don't, then I'll just cut it there. Also, if you're wondering where the Parvision collabs are, they're going to be on my previous channel, which is going to be linked down below. And if you're wondering why, it's because I want to start diversifying the YouTube channels to some extent. And I feel like the long format videos would exist better on its own separate channel rather than on this one. And now on to some shameless plugging. If you're still watching by this point, I really appreciate it. But I do have a Twitch. It is linked down below. If you want to see me playing games, if you want to see me cut loose a little bit and not act as casual as I do here, please check that out. It is linked down below at Psyduck. That's enough shameless plugging for now. Thank you guys for watching. And thank you to the channel members and Patreon members here on the side. You guys are the best. And I will catch you guys on the next couple videos. Signing out.